welcome back again to the Beyond the Boardroom podcast brought to you by the National Black MBA Association DFW Chapter. Once again, I am Demetrius Washington, VP of Administration, and we have over here
Cherice Williams, the president of the chapter. Hello, everyone. Again, we're talking about money, a great topic. So I'm ready to jump in with our special guest.
Yes, let's get back to it. On our last episode, we had Karen Williams, also known as the Dividend Diva, and she is joining us again. So previously, we talked about how to eliminate debt and control your spending. And on this segment, we want to really dig into, okay, once you get control of it, now what do you actually do with that money? How do you start building generational wealth? So welcome back, Karen.
Yes, glad to be back.
All right, so we just want to dig into this. We do have some more questions from our members. And again, you guys keep those questions coming. If you have any questions for another show or any show ideas, please send those to us. But let's get into this first question we have here. On the previous episode, you talked about saving and planning. And is there a such thing as having too much money in a regular savings account? When should you really start moving that money around to something else?
Great question. So there's a part of our community that's really weary of investing, putting money into the stock market or other investment vehicles. But once you have your emergency fund saved and you have, an adequate cushion in your checking account to make sure that, if something, misses a day or two, you can cover it, I would say it's time to start investing. So once you have that 6 months, 9 months, if possible, then it's definitely time to start investing. And there are so many opportunities now to invest small. Literally anyone in America can get into the stock market. They can invest with a couple clicks and with $5 as a minimum. So there's no excuse for anyone not to be investing.
Awesome.
I'm sorry, can I just drill into that a little bit? Because I follow a few financial advisors or financial influencers on social media. And there's actually a difference opinions on, whether you should be waiting to invest or, to your point, doing both in tandem, right? So starting to build up that emergency fund while also dropping in $5 or $10 or $100, to the side in an investment account. So can you give a little bit more perspective on why you're saying, wait until you have that 6 months or so?
Well, I think that's to start investing for vehicles outside of your 401k.
Okay.
So let's talk about that. The minute you start your job, you should be investing something in your 401k. So 25 years ago, I've been saving for retirement since my very first check. And the minimum amount that you could contribute was $15 a paycheck. So I started with that. And then over the years, I grew the contribution. So you want to invest in the stock market, especially in your 401k, as much as you can, because time is on your side when it comes to investments. Right. So even if you're putting in $25 a paycheck and you're in your 20s, that money has 40 years to grow. There's no way you can make that up. Even if you deposit $2,000 a month at 50, there's no way to make up for the 30 years of interest and revenue returns that you could have gotten in the stock market. So what I'm saying is, from day one, put in the minimum or the maximum that you can, even if it's the minimum amount, to get that vehicle started so you have maximum years for that growth to occur. Now, when it comes to outside investing, outside of your primary vehicle, whether it's 401k, 403b, or 457, then once you've saved, eliminated your debt, and the reason I want to talk about debt is because most of our debt is at 10, 24, 30% interest. If you have, a one main loan or something like that, a payday loan, is really exorbitant interest. So you're investing those dollars isn't going to make up for that debt that you're paying. So I want you to eliminate your debt. And then once that happens, you can start investing in the stock market in either mutual funds or individual stocks that you're interested in.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think sometimes we either take for granted the 401k route that we're doing. We either forget about it or we're not doing enough, right?
Yes.
Or some version of that, right? So I'm glad that you, delineated the two.
Yes. And I want to remind you that the primary investment vehicle, the majority of their wealth is in their 401k and in their home.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's a good segue into the next question we have here.
Okay.
If you don't make a lot of money, can you actually afford to buy a home and start building wealth that way?
Yes. So I want to encourage the person that answered that question. And I'll tell you some advice that one of my aunts gave me, who's a very savvy teacher who is very financially well off. And she was an educator for the majority of her career. When I moved here to Houston, before I started at my first day of work, she told me, she said, I'm going to give you some advice that I was given by Granny, my grandmother. And she said, it's not what you make, it's what you do with what you make. So there are people that are debt free and make $30,000 a year, and there are people that make $300,000 a year, and they are millions of dollars in debt. So it's not how much you make, it's what you do with what you make. So can you have a house if you don't make a lot of money? Sure. If you don't have a lot of debt and you save, you may qualify for some programs that help you with down payment assistance. You'll have opportunities for first-time home buyer discounted, rates with the FHA. So there's definitely a possibility if you don't make a lot of money to own a house. It's not what you make, it's what you do with what you make.
Good deal. So you build your debt. You build your wealth, you start accumulating investments, properties, what have you. How do you actually go about protecting what you've built?
Oh, great question. So one of the things that I want to make sure is that these are good problems, right? So you want to make sure that you are working with an insurance professional that can insure you properly. You may need renter's insurance. You may need homeowner's insurance. If you're a homeowner that runs a business or you have, multiple assets, you may need an umbrella policy to protect your personal assets, your liquid funds, your savings, and things like that. So you want to make sure that you're working with an insurance professional that makes sure you insure that properly. We also want to make sure that you are, and this is, like I said, this is a good problem. You want to make sure that you know the FDIC limits so that you don't have too much money sitting in an account. Know what the FDIC insures. So, one of these days when you have more than $250,000, you'll know that you need to split that into multiple accounts so that you can have FDIC protection. So you want to be actively involved with your money. You want to make sure you have adequate car insurance so that if you hit someone's car and it's a pretty expensive car, if you have the appropriate coverage, it won't touch you won't have any out-of-pocket expenses. So you just want to make sure that you are actively engaged in how many assets you have and then work with a professional to make sure they're insured properly.
Awesome. I have a build on to that, and it's going a little bit granular, I guess, in the investment tools and vehicles that you suggest. Again, thinking about some of our members and building families, can you give some recommendations on, perhaps how they should invest for their children versus how they should invest for themselves? And if you have a priority order, because again, I've heard some people say, hey, take care of yourself first before you take care of your kids.
Yes.
So what's your thoughts on that space?
Well, I will definitely tell you that I shored up myself financially, my husband and I. We made sure that we were able to fund ourselves and take care of ourselves in retirement, because what we didn't want to do was saddle our children with having some responsibility to take care of us in retirement. So I definitely believe in making sure that the parental unit is okay. And it's really hard to educate your children or send them away to college when you're struggling to still meet bills back at home. So we definitely want mom and dad to be secure. And we also want mom and dad to model good decision making for their kids, because kids won't do what you say, they'll do what you do. Okay. So then once you kind of get settled and you know how much it's going to cost you to retire, what kind of Social Security benefits you can have, if you have a pension, or if you have a 401k and you need to annuitize it, how much do I need to live in retirement? So I need to generate $5,000 a month, and I'm going to get $2,000 in Social Security. So this vehicle has to bring me $3,000. So those are the kind of questions you want to have with your spouse or your partner. Okay, then we go to the kids. So we talk about investing. And everybody says I can't afford to save, but you can. So you can start a 529 with $25 minimum automatic contribution, right? So you can say, I'm just going to put $25 away. And if you don't have kids, you say, I'm just going to help my niece or my nephew or my godchild, and I'm going to stick $25 a month in this account. And when they get ready to go to college, they'll have something, toward books or room and board. Now, for parents, they may want to do the 529, and there are different types of 529. So there's a regular, just kind of mutual fund investment account, and then there are prepaid tuition plans. So since we're talking to the Dallas DFW MBAs, let's talk about the Texas Tuition Promise Fund. Well, this fund is a prepaid tuition plan. So let's say you had a baby this year in 2021, and they're not going to college until 2040. You can start buying 2020 tuition credits, and they'll go to school in 2040 on what you paid in 2021. Oh, wow. So you can inflation adjust your investment by purchasing early. Okay, so then that plan says, hey, what if, there are, a zillion schools in Texas, but let's say my child decides to go to school in North Carolina. Well, they will inflation adjust that money and turn that into money that the kid can use in North Carolina. So it's a great program that's worth looking at. And you can do a payment plan, or you can pay as you go. You can say, hey, I just want to send you $100 a month. And a credit may be $140. So you can say, I'm just going to send you $140 a month, and I'm going to buy one tuition credit. So there are real practical, inexpensive ways, if you're consistent, that you can prepay for your kids' college education without it causing maximum disruption to the family, or trying to retire and trying to send a kid to school.
That makes sense. And I'm going to add to that question because, you talk, and I appreciate in the last episode, you talked about your family history and just having great role models, right, in your life.
Yes.
When we talk about generational wealth, the realities of many of us in our community is that we're faced with, perhaps our parents or our grandparents didn't know as much as we're knowing, right? And so as they get older, we're having to cover for perhaps our future kids, but then we're also going to have to, take care of our parents, right? So how do we balance that, right? Balancing investing for yourself, balancing investing for your future, but then also making sure that we were able to take care of our parents.
You can help mom and dad if need be. So again, I'm going to go back and stress the importance of having a plan for every dollar that comes into your hands. So you want to make sure that you prioritize. Just like when you get ready to pay off debt, you put your debts in order in that snowball from smallest to largest, right? And you knock them out one at a time. So the first thing you do, just like when you're on the plane, is you put the mask over yourself to make sure you can save yourself. Once you're comfortable with that, you definitely want to help the next generation. And the biggest gift that my mom gave me wasn't necessarily cash money. It was the confidence that I was intelligent enough to deal with money, because a lot of times women are kind of given the idea that maybe we're not as good with money as we need to be, although we're the chief decision maker in 90% of the homes. Only 8% of African Americans ever receive an inheritance. So it's important that when we learn something, we teach it. We teach it backwards and forwards. I have a client in Arlington that I got her debt free, And her mom is now my client. She said, I saw what you did with my daughter and I need to do the same thing. So once we learn the information, we got to go back and teach somebody else. So we got to tell mom and dad, hey, look, we're going to have to make some different decisions. We're going to help you, but we're going to help you help yourself. So we're all going to sit down and create a budget. And we're all going to get life insurance so that when something happens, we're not struggling. We're not on GoFundMe. I don't have to go to my retirement fund. We're going to go prepay for funeral plots. We're going to, we have to, as a family, as a community, start making decisions that we necessarily can't wear right now, but it'll help us in the future. So definitely have a plan, get the family involved, talk to your kids and be honest. Say, mom and dad really didn't save for you to go to college, so here are your options. Don't let your kids go borrow $200,000 to go to school because you want them to go to your dream school. Have a conversation with them. You're either going to have to really be an all-star academically, or we're going to have to look at state schools, or we're going to do community college for 2 years and then you're going to go somewhere else. Or we're going to maximize this high school plan, right? And we're going to get an associate degree. So we got to be all in when it comes to dealing with these family issues so that we don't have another generation of kids leaving with 6 figures worth of student loans and they'll never own a home. Right, they'll never be out of student loan debt. We got to have some honest conversations.
Amen.
I love it. Wow, that was so much content. So Rich, I learned a lot. I had no idea about purchasing tuition credits. That's amazing.
Your nephew and niece are fully funded.
All right.
They can go anywhere they want to go through that program. So we'll only be asking Uncle Meech for book money.
Hey, I got him. So that's it's a good time for us to actually take a break.
Okay.
And let's do these song things again. So I'm actually going to start off with you this time, Karen. I know you had a good song for us.
Okay. Well, my first song was spiritual in nature, but I'm an inner city kid, so I love God and I'm kind of hood too. So my next song for wealth building is My Click by Kanye West featuring Big Sean and Jay-Z. And so that song says 2 things to me. And I'll tell you, my friends, and he's one of them, ain't nobody fresher than my clique. Who you hang around matters. You can either fly with eagles or hang with chickens. So if you're not around people that are money minded, that are wealth minded, you're going to end up making some poor financial decisions. So my dad used to say, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. So hang around people that really have your best financial interest in mind and will help push you towards your financial goals, not detract from them. And then 2, that song, there's a line in there where JC says, you take the 62, make it 125, take the 125, make it 250, take the 250, make it $500,000. And that's what investing is about. You start small and you take that 50 and your next goal is to make it 100. And once you get to 100, then you want to double that. It takes time, but just like it took you time to get in it, it takes time to get out. So My Click is my wealth building song.
So I hear Karen drop them bars.
Yeah, I always love, this segment where we try to use, songs because, there's so much music and music can uplift you. It can do a lot of things. The song I'm actually going to choose is Donna Summer's She Works Hard for the Money. Okay. But I actually am using that song in a way where I want to be the antithesis of that. I did work really hard and I have been working really hard, but I invest because I don't want to work hard anymore. I want to work smarter and more strategic. And so I thought that song would be appropriate because it's like, and that song came out, I don't know, maybe 30 years ago. I think we now need to just allow our money to work harder, let our money work harder for us, right. But we don't necessarily have to work as hard.
Good. So my song is actually Jasmine Sullivan. It's brand new. And on that song, she's talking about, of course, it's about a relationship, but there's a line she talks about when people start making money, they start acting funny. Mm-hmm. And you and Karen both talked about reaching back and sharing the knowledge that we have and helping to build each other up and just really the economic empowerment. So that's my twist there. When you start making money, don't act funny, share the knowledge, share the wealth.
Yes, great.
So let's get back into a couple more questions.
Okay.
We spent some time talking about family planning, or having those conversations with your family. For National Black MBA, we have a Leaders of Tomorrow chapter here, and we spend some time with the youth, the high school students, working on financial literacy and just trying to help them be prepared. But we want to speak to our members and their families and how they can have those conversations with their kids or younger people in their family. There's an entrepreneur that I know, and her grandfather was actually an entrepreneur, a millionaire, and he left his son, her father, $500,000, but her dad died broke because he didn't know how to manage that money. So how do we actually teach our kids to manage the money that we're planning to leave them?
Yes. So with anything, it is time and repetition and consistency. So we need to have family conversations. We need to have family financial meetings, and we need to sit with our kids and teach them all the things we didn't know. So, my mom would always say, have you written it out? So if you wanted to do something, you had to write a budget and show it to her. So I want, school clothes, and I'm gonna give you $200. Well, I'm gonna spend 50 on shoes and 30 on my hair. You had to give her a plan. So we have to help our kids. Let them download an app. Let's talk to them about what an interest rate is, what a savings account is, what a checking account is. And don't let college be the first time they interact with banking. Let them have a bank account as soon as they're old enough to hold on to money. So when they're 7 or 8, take them in the bank, let them make a deposit. Tell them what a checking account is for. Let them know that debit card that you use when you take them shopping isn't free money. It's money that you work for, you put it in, and there's only so much that can come out. Share with them your successes as well as your failures. See, we always talk about the good things we have. Oh, look, I got this car, this ring, this bag, but we don't tell them about our failures. So I borrowed too much money in college, and let me tell you why you shouldn't do that. Or I paid too much for this car. I should have bought a cheaper car that I could have paid off in 36 months instead of getting a car that I financed for 72 months and I'm upside down on it because it lost value as soon as I drove it off the lot. So we got to have those kind of hard conversations. And then when you know your children, and if you're a parent, you know your kids, give them ways that they can't mess up the money. So maybe one child gets the money and another child gets it in trust. And the trust dictates how that person gets the money. And then a certain amount goes to the next generation. So we also have to prep our families so that if we think that money might leave, we can put it in trust and put some stipulations around it. Yes, Black people can have trusts, and we can tell the trust how we want the money distributed to our children in the next generation and the generations moving forward. So there are lots of ways to do that, but it has to come from a conversation.
Yeah, I think that's real. I don't know if you saw, Demetrius, you follow me on social media, but I took my daughter, she's 4, to Target to buy a coloring book, and she only had 10 cents, but it was enough for her to feel like she was doing something with her 10 cents.
Right.
And to that point, actually, one of my girlfriends is, she's like, hey, what do I buy my 5-year-old twins? I was like, stock in Disney? I mean, what? They don't need anything else right now. But yeah, I definitely think it's sort of instilling that, to your point, early, and just, making sure we can have fun. And actually, I think that's a nice pivot, too. I want to just kind of talk through, sometimes this topic of money, it makes you feel really stressed because you know the right things to do. But it's similar to losing weight, where I feel like in moderation, we have to allow ourselves to have a little guilty pleasure, right? So do you have a point of view on how you bake in just enjoying your money as well versus making it, go in every direction?
Oh, yeah. I have a lot of fun with my money, but it's a line item like everything else. So, money doesn't have to be scary. And money doesn't have to be limiting. The great thing about having a plan is that you get to tell your money what you want to do. I want to take a family vacation, or I want to eat out with my family once a week, on Friday or Saturday or Sunday after church. So you can tell your money what to do. You can say fun. And so we also have to decide how much fun we want to have. Are we a family that wants to have fun in the city, or are we a family that wants to have fun around the globe? Well, we may only go once a year if we want to go around the globe, and we may decide that we're really not globetrotters, but we're gonna invest in our backyard. We're gonna have an awesome pool, and we're gonna be the family that really has time at home. So you get to define it, and you get to fund it, but no vacation, no outing, no Six Flags is great if you come back with a credit card bill and then you're unhappy or you have to pay it off for several months. So let's just schedule the fun, and let's budget for the fun, and then let's also be creative. So let's look at, free opportunities, screenings. Let's look at museum day. Here, the museums are free on Thursday nights. So why not go and visit the museums on Thursdays? It's, be creative with the way you have fun, and then always be looking at the bottom line. So teach your kids to be strategic, and definitely let them know that the purpose of money, and the reason I said purposeful, is the reason I want you out of debt is so you can live your purpose. And it's hard to live your purpose when there's no free capital to move around with. And so some of us are supposed to be philanthropists, but we're so busy paying Citibank that we can't give kids scholarships. Right. So I want you to get that debt out of the way so you can go ahead and live your financial purpose.
Awesome.
I think that is the perfect way to end this show. I can't share any more greater advice than what you just did. So we talked about eliminating debt. We talked about building wealth. We talked about sharing the knowledge with our families, whether that's sharing older generations or the future generations. And we talked about, having fun with that money, making sure that you actually reach that financial freedom to do what you want to do. So yes. I want to thank you, Karen, for joining us. Y'all look up the Dividend Diva. She has a website. She's on social media. I know she has a ton of clients. I see some of their testimonials. So if you need her, look her up.
The Dividend Diva. And Karen, just one last thing, and I'm a marketer. So how did you come up with that name?
I love a good outfit. I'm known to have a switch of hair here and there, and you might see me with lashes and a few little designer pieces. So I definitely believe in looking fabulous and living a fabulous life. But at the end of the day, I also believe that the most fabulous thing I can do is to set my family up so that they'll never be broke a day in their lives. So I love to be a diva, but I'm also looking at the dividends at the end of the day. So I thought it fit me.
It's cute. Good job with that one. Well, again, thank you so much. And we'll definitely share with our audience ways in which they can contact you directly.
Yes, thank you so much for the invite.
Absolutely.